Hi folks, John with the Wingman 115 channel. Thanks so much for checking in. I'm really excited as always to be out here in the woods, but today in particular because I'm testing the much anticipated SCHF43. Now this is a blade that's commonly known on the boards as, quote, the Jessica X. And I did a quick overview of this blade about a week or two ago. You can check it out on my channel. I'll leave a link below. It shows all the specs rundown up close and personal on this blade. Today primarily I'm out here to do a test to try to run this knife through the paces just to see if it's going to hold up for you folks out there. Now I had a chance to interview Chris at SHOT Show, the designer of this blade, and he went over some of the specs and some of his reasonings behind the design. As we do the video today, I'm going to be discussing some of those bullet points, and we're going to see how well it chops. We're going to test the 3-position grip on the handle, and we might even throw in a little mystery living on the wild side test on this. So without further ado, let's get to doing some testing out here in the woods of the SCHF43, folks. Come along and join me. It's going to be a fun day. I'm going to do a chop test on this oak limb from a recent blowdown, and we'll see how well the Jessica X chops. Now this is about 1.5 inch limb. We'll give it a go, and we'll try the front, middle, and aft grip on this. Let's start with the forward grip. Almost through. Okay, now for the middle grip. There we go. That's middle grip. I'm gonna give my hand a rest, and then I'm gonna come back and do the aft grip. Okay, now before I do the back seat or aft grip, I'm gonna put gloves on, and I'm gonna illustrate why. I've only been using the blade for a little while, but I'm getting a hot spot right there. And the hot spot, when I was using it, there needs to be maybe a little more chamfer on the scale on this top side, almost kind of like it's scalloped out here. I don't like to wear gloves when I'm working. I don't know, I'm just old school like that. But for this review, I'm gonna put my gloves on because that is definitely a hot spot for me. I can feel, quote, the burn right now. So with gloves on, I'm going to try that back seat grip. And people are asking about this design. It's basically based off a barong handle design, according to Chris. One thing I like about it though is I find my hand is really secure with that grip. Obviously the knife just doesn't feel like it's going to go flying right out of your hand off into the great blue yonder. So without further ado, let's try the back seat grip. Oh yeah. That is definitely, for chopping, the sweet spot on this blade. Get the maximum amount with that. There you go. So the backseat grip for chopping just worked outstanding. It's just physics. You're up close, you're trying to chop with that. It's gonna be tough. Let me cut off a piece of limb and then we'll see how well it does, like making a tent stake and things like that. I'll be right back. All right, let's get all that out of the way. So finding the sweet spot, obviously up on the blade where you're starting to get the sweep, is a sweet spot on that blade. Let's talk about cutting purposes when I'm choked up. And of course, like Chris's channel, I do have the military flying over with an Osprey, giving me a Marine Corps Osprey salute. Awesome. So right out of the box, the sharpness of this blade, and Brian from Survival on Purpose did a review on this and he mentioned this as well. I don't think it's as sharp as it could be. Now obviously I'm going to throw a disclaimer. When I get a blade, I usually wind up dressing the blade myself. I don't just take it for granted right out of the box that a knife is going to be sharp, going to be the cat's meow. But it'll get the job done. And to all the folks out there that whine, just sharpen your blade. Sharpen it the way you like it. These blades are all about making them yours, the individuality of it. And all the blades I own, I customize them. And I know Chris does on his channel, hence why he justifies his blades. So I would encourage folks to do the same. Now, with that saying, remember how Schrade was putting it, the almost like truck bed liner coating on the blades? They didn't do that with these. And I find that the coating that they're using now is working just a lot better. It doesn't get hung up on bark. It doesn't get hung up on the pieces of wood. It just works a lot better. The knife just glides right through there. The hard part for me is I'm trying to find a spot on the handle that's comfortable for me to be able to find that right angle per se to use, you know, to get those feather sticks. And it's like anything, it's a tool. A knife is a tool. And just like when you're doing woodworking, you're doing carpentry, you're doing mechanic work, you need to use your tools and get used to those tools. Now we're out here doing knife reviews. Obviously I can't use this knife every day for 6 months and then bang out a review in time for you folks. So we try to condense things down. We use it for a couple days just straight away, hours at a time, to kind of give you a feel. I mean, after we've done quite a few knife reviews, I mean, we have a pretty good handle on what's going to work, what isn't going to work. On this knife, I'm thinking, just me personally, and I'm going to come up close, I would like to see maybe a little bit more relief when the blade starts to profile. So bring this relief line maybe up to here to be able to thin this out a little bit. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to work for chopping, but for slicing, I think it would work a lot better. This appears to me to be almost like a saber grind. And I'm just curious how this would work with a full flat grind. That would be maybe something to do in a Pimp My Jessica X video later on down the line on a belt sander. Might be something for me to consider. But chopping, and I know that if I put it on the work sharp and I put a good edge on this bad boy, that it's just gonna shine. I can still feel that hot spot even with gloves on. That might be an issue for me. Let's go over and do another test with this. I'm gonna try a baton test. Here's a piece of wood that I've had out here for a while. I'm gonna give it a go with this. Now, here's where the angle of the grind really pays off, because I can really feel it when the blade first starts to bite, but soon as the angle tears off to the regular thickness of the blade, your cutting edge isn't even touching the wood at that point, and it's just splitting this wood, just like exploding it. Here's a knot. Let's see if we can go through that. Oh yeah. This knife was designed for this sort of stuff. Now for my mystery test. A lot of folks probably want to test the steel and how well it's going to hold up. Well, I don't recommend trying this at home, but I've done it on past knife reviews. Jessica is going to get pounded into a log. And we're going to test this 1070 high carbon steel. We're going to stand on it. Now I weigh $195, and there's all my weight on that blade. Now I can feel that blade give, and let's get something straight. With 1070, it's not like 1095. 1095 high carbon steel is a tougher steel. This is a machete steel, and it's made to give. So it sprung just enough. It took 195 pounds standing on it, beat into a tree. I think they got the heat treat right on this blade. Now let's go test the 90-degree spine on this. When Chris designed this blade, he designed it with a 90-degree spine. So if folks, if need be, in a survival situation, or if you're doing bushcraft tasks where you're scraping bark and such, you would be able to use a ferro rod. So let's give it a go with this new coating. I know it was harder on the old traction coating. This is their new, it's almost like a Teflon coating. Really smooth. But that 90-degree spine is making it rain. So really good job on the 90-degree spine. Now for some final thoughts on the SCHF43. First off, let's just say that if you are a lover of large knives and unique designs, you're going to love this blade. Over 18 inches of 1070 high carbon steel. It's going to meet or exceed your expectations for a big blade. Now, I have to be honest. On this channel, we got to keep it real. There are a few criticisms that I have that I hope there's still time before the final production run hits stores that Schrade can look at. One being the hot spot on the TPE handles. Normally TPE and me get along really well. Today, I think it just needed, like I said, a little more chamfer on that top, just like it's scalloped out on the bottom. It really wore out the palm of my hand, and it just rubbed the skin raw. And I don't like wearing gloves when I'm out working. It's just an old school thing. I like being able to feel things with my hands, and it really created a hot spot quick and burned it. Now, with that said, when you're in that back seat grip and you're chopping, oh my gosh, there's a lot of leverage, and you can just feel this blade bite. Now the sweet spot is going to be right about here when you're chopping on this bad boy. Right almost where the blade starts to sweep up is where I'm finding I'm getting most of like energy transfer. What I personally would like to see on this blade is a little bit higher relief on this grind. I'm going to pimp this blade out probably on the work sharp and sharpen it the way I want to. And I mentioned that earlier. A lot of people complain about knives out of the box, not being sharp, doing all this, doing all that. Unless I'm doing a knife review, the first thing I do is I sharpen my blades to what I want, to my expectations. And that's the great thing about knives. You personalize them, you make them your own. This would be no exception. I am going to first change the grind on this and make it work for how I'm able to grip, because the way my hand is, I don't know if my palm's not big enough, I can't really get my hand around good enough to be able to find the right sweet spot on that angle grind to get perfect feathers and perfect curls. I know that Chris is able to do it. Chris's hands may be bigger than mine, and he's able to get just maybe a 1 or 2 degree difference on that blade. Your mileage may vary. If you have really small hands, that might be an issue for you. With that said, I would probably even consider going maybe with a little bit steeper choil and maybe a little more cutout, a little more sweep in the handles here for folks like me that have medium, maybe small hands, because that might be what's causing the hot spot too. I didn't think about that. But I really like the back grip in that barong style that's on the pommel of this blade. My hand was really secure in there. It didn't feel like the knife was just going to go flying out, boomeranging out. And it just felt really good chopping. So I have a few criticisms. The 90-degree spine worked very well. You can expect these blades out, I'm thinking around the end of August, early September is when they'll probably start hitting retail markets. And now you're probably starting to wonder, John, what rating are you going to give this blade? Knowing that you're friends with Chris Tanner and all that stuff. But remember, folks, I got to keep it real on the channel. Given the criticisms that I brought up, I would have to give this blade 3.5 stars. There's still a little work to be done with it. I think Chris needs to work with Schrade just a little bit more, just to redefine maybe the handles, the sweep of the choil, maybe the grind just a little bit more. I like where they're going with it. It would be one hell of a chopping machine if it just gets pimped out just a little bit more. And I may do some of those mods to this, and then later on down the line do a follow-up video on sort of my Pimp My Jessica sort of thing, like MTV does with the disco balls and all that stuff. So with that said, 3.5 stars, got to keep it real. Hopefully they'll listen and they'll do some of the suggestions maybe on this blade, and you can hope to see it in stores at the end of August, early September. Folks, I thank you for watching. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Follow along on social media for all the latest updates. And as always, folks, I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Now get out and play, because it's one heck of a nice day, and you're missing out on a lot of fun out here. Take care, folks. I'll see you later. Bye.